Tomorrow's the date we find out whether or not we are right around the corner from the next cryptocurrency bull market. And in this video, I want to break down exactly what we are expecting tomorrow and what needs to happen to enter this next bull market. Guys, we are right around the corner from one of the biggest events we have seen in a very long time for the cryptocurrency industry. In this video, I want to break down exactly what that is and what we absolutely need to see. I also want to talk about something next week that is not getting a lot of attention that I believe is also a very important date for the future of the cryptocurrency industry in the United States. Make sure to stick around for that. You are not going to want to miss this. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So as many of you probably know by now, the big decision we are waiting for tomorrow is what the Federal Reserve chooses to do with interest rates. Now, there are some very important things we need to discuss on what the Federal Reserve could do versus what the best thing for the cryptocurrency industry is going to be. But some of my answers around this might actually surprise you in what things actually don't really matter that much. More importantly, though, I want to focus on something else first quick that I believe is also a very important date right around the corner, because this is something that not too many people are actually picking up on right now and has huge implications for the cryptocurrency industry. And that's that next week, the SEC is actually going to be testifying in front of the House. Now, this is extremely exciting because I have been very critical of the fact that since Republicans got into office, we have not seen any pressure put on Gary Gensler. Seems like the Democrats actually put more pressure on Gary Gensler than the Republicans. And although we are promised a new day, we really haven't gotten any pressure on Gary Gensler since his tirade against the cryptocurrency industry. What we're seeing, though, is we are finally getting something, and we are about to watch not only the full SEC commission in front of Congress, but then the next day, Gary Gensler himself. Now, it looks like this is actually going to take place on September 24th and September 25th, and this is going to give us big indications on where the SEC is leaning in their stance on cryptocurrencies. One of the things we saw the other week that was absolutely shocking that no one expected was the SEC actually saying, hey, we messed up. There is no such thing as a crypto asset security. Let's see how we can remedy this going forward. No one expected the SEC to essentially admit this because all their cases have been predicated on the made up idea of a cryptocurrency security. So the SEC just a couple weeks ago essentially admitted to courts, hey, we were actually litigating cases on a made up term that we now admit doesn't exist. So I'm questioning whether or not the SEC is actually going to go into this hearing with maybe actually a more pro cryptocurrency stance than we've seen before. Now, that might be extremely hopeful, but we're right around the corner from an election, and what we know is the Democrats either have to take a stance here. They're going to pivot and they're going to go more pro cryptocurrency, or they're not. And this is going to be their last chance to do some kind of pivot. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. It's kind of going to outline what is the last thing we see from Gary Gensler in terms of his cryptocurrency stance. He comes out during this thing extremely anti-cryptocurrency, extremely negative, saying crypto asset security, making all these claims that the SEC has kind of walked back on. I think Gary Gensler is probably out the door. But if he actually tries to pivot his stance and instead act more pro-cryptocurrency, that could actually make for a very interesting scenario. So that's what's taking place next week that I believe is going to have huge implications on the industry. But now let's move into the big event tomorrow, because I know that's why a lot of people clicked on this video, and I know a lot of people truly understand that this is going to have huge implications. Now, I want to start this topic off and say something that I don't think a lot of people are going to expect. And that's that I actually don't think the whole 25 basis point versus 50 basis point cut tomorrow, I don't think that discussion is really that important. You're probably thinking, well, isn't 50 basis points so much more bullish? Isn't 75 basis point cut so much more bullish? Isn't a 25 basis point cut less bullish? Yeah, in the short term. But what's so important to understand is this is just the start of a change in macro policy. These things take time to roll out. We didn't have interest rates go from 0.25% to 5% in a single meeting. That took 2 to 3 years to play out. Now what we're going to watch is the same thing, likely faster, but a long process in the reverse direction. The significance of the meeting tomorrow is a change in policy, a change in the direction, a change in what the macro decisions are going to be going forward, and we are moving away from hard money and back to easy money. And I want to make that clear because the market is going to react however the market wants to react tomorrow. Logically, it seems like the market would be happy about a cut, but who knows what the market is going to do. I want to indicate to you guys that what we are going to see is by the end of 2025, likely interest rates at 2.75%. That is because this is a process, it's a long-term thing, and we are moving into a new macro environment that I believe is going to be very beneficial to cryptocurrencies. So try not to get too overly tied up in what the decision is tomorrow, what the market does in terms of reaction to what happens tomorrow, and really understand we are entering a new paradigm, one that is easy money, one that is better for growth assets like cryptocurrencies. And I want to jump into the data real quick and just show you why this is happening, and then talk about the proof that this is in fact good for cryptocurrencies and why I think it's going to be so important. Now, the first thing we need to understand that is inflation in terms of government numbers is going away. I try to make this super clear on my channel. I understand things are still very expensive. I understand things are still getting expensive very fast, but we are investing in markets here. We are playing a game. We are playing a rigged game at the end of the day, and we have to play the rigged game by the rigged rules. If I came out on this channel every single day and said, don't listen to any of the inflation numbers, don't listen to this, don't listen to this, it's all made up, that would be great, but that's not going to help you make money. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is part of the rigged game. They use the rigged numbers and they adjust their macro policy based on these numbers. So we have to pay attention to the numbers. Whether or not you think these numbers are real, whether or not I think these numbers are real, it doesn't matter, because this is what the Federal Reserve is doing. And when the Federal Reserve controls the economy, which it does, then we need to understand that the numbers they are paying attention to are important. And what we are seeing is that inflation, based on those numbers, is likely at 1.11%. The Federal Reserve's goal is 2%. So we are already below their target, meaning that they absolutely need to cut aggressively. We are about to enter deflation, which, like I said earlier, might sound great for buying things, is very not good in terms of whether or not we are going into a depression. Yes, things are going to get cheaper, but there's a reason they're getting cheaper. It's likely because we're on the verge of a depression. We want to try to avoid a depression. That's not what this video is about, but just to be clear, in terms of what the Federal Reserve should be looking at, inflation is gone. Now, what's crazy about all of this is the numbers I just showed you were actually from a private company reporting on real-time data. The Federal Reserve, like every other government agency, is laggy, it's slow, it does things extremely inefficiently, and they're still seeing inflation at 2.5%. So the private sector is seeing inflation at 1.1%. The Federal Reserve is seeing inflation at 2.5%. And based on my entire time watching these two numbers interact with each other, they're almost the same. It's just that the private numbers lead. So if that means that the Federal Reserve data over the next couple months is going to drop to 1.1%, that means the Federal Reserve absolutely needs to cut aggressively. And the reason why I really wanted to highlight on this real quick is because it drives home the point that we are heading into this very easy money regime. The Federal Reserve absolutely needs to cut interest rates because inflation is below their target. The whole reason they raised interest rates was because inflation was above their target. Now it's below their target. We are going to an easy money regime. Now, the reason this is so important, and I want to drive this part home, is because it is good for risk assets. Take a look at the last time we had high interest rates in the United States. Bitcoin and crypto was doing nothing. The second interest rates dropped, we had an explosion in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Take a look at what happened the second interest rates started rising again. This blue line. Cryptocurrency fell off a cliff. It is no coincidence. This asset class is too small, too speculative, not to be massively impacted by interest rates. But what we are right around the corner from is interest rates going back to a place that is going to be accommodative towards the cryptocurrency sector. And what I wanted to show you was that the data is making it extremely clear that no matter what happens tomorrow, the new monetary regime is lower interest rates, easier money, better for cryptocurrencies. This is what I am paying attention to tomorrow. It is, are we kicking off this process? Every indication is yes, we are. Every indication is that right now, it looks like if we cut fast enough, we can avoid the depression recession scenario I was talking about earlier. And if we really can do that, we are going to be at a perfect opportunity to kickstart the next bull market with some easy money. That is exactly what this industry needs right now. The cryptocurrency market has done a great job holding up despite the high interest rates, but it's not going to be holding up forever. What we need is lower interest rates to come back in, easy money to flow back into this market, and for people to start once again chasing risk assets. This is something we have been talking about on this channel for about 8.5 months now, and it is playing out absolutely perfectly, even better than I ever imagined it. We are finally at the end of the bad part of the cycle, and we're going back into the exciting part of the cycle where money is being reinvested back into this asset class. Hope this video really helped you see that we are tracking everything we wanted to happen perfectly. The Federal Reserve's numbers are back in target, and it's putting them in a position where they can lower interest rates and pump money back into the system, which will in no doubt flow into cryptocurrencies. You compound this with a couple other things like a pro-cryptocurrency regime, the SEC backing off some of their cases, you can easily see why the asset class of cryptocurrencies is going to be one of the main places new money wants to go once we enter this brand new part of the cycle. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to keep your tabs on what happens tomorrow. You know I will be all over it. Guys, thank you so much for coming, and for now, Mickle out.